Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, or wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to the event. My name is Adrian. I am a technology strategist at Chevron. I'll be serving as the moderator today. Now, our topic of interest is around the digitalization of supply chain. However, we're probably going to be diving into areas broader than that as well. I know from a Chevron perspective that how essential transformation are for our company and probably to all our respective companies. Our chairman often speaks about winning in any environment. And to do that, to be the best that we can be, he believes that we really need a strong digital foundation to enable this go, right? So I think that's the key kind of manifesto from our corporate strategy perspective. And that was a mandate or a comment by our chairman that was given to us pre-COVID. So given the kind of economic conditions of what's happening across the globe with COVID, I can only imagine things have been heightened from an urgency and prioritization perspective, and really leveraging technology as a transformational vehicle has accelerated. So with that, I'm excited about the event. We have really great panelists. Let's start off with a quick round of introductions. We'll go start off with Jan first.
Hi, my name is Jan Shumate. I'm the Director of Worldwide Engineering and Construction Services and Solutions, and also the leader of our Manufacturing Automation Transformation Initiative for Eastman.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us, Jan. Adrian?
Hi, I'm Adrian Fielding. I'm based in the UK. I'm the Global General Manager for Safety Initiatives within Honeywell Process Solutions.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. Joseph.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Joe McMullen with AVEVA, and I'm in charge of value chain optimization marketing here at AVEVA.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, Marcos.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcos Abech. I'm the Global Head of Digital Factory at Braskem, responsible for our digital transformation journey, focusing on agile design, development, and data science areas.
Very good. Thank you guys so much. Jan, let's start off with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Eastman, the core lines of business, and kind of your capacity there, and what kind of transformation efforts as a high-level general initiatives you guys are undertaking right now?
Okay, great. First of all, I'll share that Eastman our corporate headquarters is located in Kingsport, Tennessee. We celebrated our centennial anniversary last year. We've been in business for 100 years, and actually we're founded in Tennessee. That was our home base location. So we didn't celebrate quite the way we had planned last year, but still an accomplishment. We're a specialty materials innovation company, and over our 100-year history, we have been innovating. We're very collaborative and very concerned about speed to market of new products and being able to have the best and the safest processes to deliver those products. You may not be familiar with our products by name, but likely you've touched something that we manufactured today, from the lining in your suit coat to the film on your windows in your building or in your car, just a host of different products. We have over 50 manufacturing sites around the world and serve customers in at least double that number of countries. So innovation, to speed and energize that innovation, being connected, having digital information, and having that available in a moment's notice is so important, both in how we create our products, how we build the facilities that will create those products, and then how we serve our customers in each of those areas. Our digital journey to digitalization, it started probably about 9 years ago in concept, and the tools and the way to build out what we envisioned were still very rudimentary then. And we really started building a digital ecosystem, a digital environment, with the goal of single source instant access to one view of the truth about 6 years ago. That was when we started building out that ecosystem. Our system is called SEGA. That's an acronym for Seamless EPCOM. engineering, procurement, construction, operations, and maintenance, integrated global access. And so again, having access to one single point of the truth in one place where everybody in the company can come together to get that information. It started as that view to the truth. And another interesting thing about Eastman in how we execute projects, how we maintain and operate our facilities, we have in-house engineering. We do our own upfront conceptual engineering. We do detailed engineering. We also use third parties for that. And then we maintain our facilities in-house with in-house engineering. So we really wanted access to that information to build facilities, to maintain facilities, and to optimize facilities as we moved forward in our product structure. So Sega came to life 6 years ago, and the neatest thing after we brought that access together is then we were able to automate workflows, and that became very important to our supply chain. Now, as we were designing a new facility, we could, in the instrumentation space, put starting points, termination points, label those as they would look in the field, and we could auto-generate instrument loop sheets. We could auto-generate drawings. We improved our cycle time in just the instrumentation design space over 25% by harvesting that data, having it all in one place, and being able to make it work for us instead of us working for it. The other neat thing, having it in one place, we were able then to auto-generate purchase requisitions and purchase orders. We established interoperability to SAP, which we use corporately for all of our asset information, for our procurement transactions, and for our spare parts. So we were able to auto-generate that in the design and construction of new facilities. All of that took time, took rework out of the engineering, procurement, construction process. And then as we were actually building facilities, we were able to digitally create work packages so that when construction crews came on site each day, they're able to know what they're going to work on. They're going to have their materials and parts there to actually construct the job today. That has enabled us to see 20% on average improvement in productivity of field forces, and all of that is powered by the digital ecosystem that was established 6 years ago. So it just keeps building upon itself, and while we've seen those improvements and that access to information and the information working for us in the supply chain of building our facilities, producing new manufacturing sites or improved manufacturing sites in our existing facilities. Now we're able to take advantage of some of the exciting new technologies, emerging technologies that can allow us to leverage that data and that digital insight into our manufacturing space. So we're now able to optimize facilities, optimize our production. We're able to track supply of our raw materials, supply of our manufactured products through shipping to customers. And we're able to, again, employ those really interesting emerging technologies. Drones. We're able to use drones for laser scanning of our facilities, inspection of equipment, inspection of construction spaces, inspection of manufacturing assets to make sure that they're up and running at peak performance levels that minimizes our downtime. We're using robotics for that as well. A host of these new things that enable us to keep our personnel safe and give us better insight in a faster way than we've been able to before. We're also using wearables that enable us to bring expertise together around the world so that we can leverage folks from a corporate site to a remote site. We already had this established and we were used to working this way. We were used to facilitating remote insight at different manufacturing sites. And when the pandemic occurred in 2020, and that became our new work structure where everybody, for the most part, had to work remotely with a critical skeleton crew actually allowed into our manufacturing facilities, we were prepared to never miss a beat. The only upset or the only tweak that had to be made were home internet providers. Our digital infrastructure was set up to where folks could access their drawings. They could continue to auto-generate drawings. They could continue to auto-generate detailed equipment sheets, purchase orders, and have equipment delivered to site. They could see what was going on at site through these wearables, and they were able to monitor progress of projects, where manufacturing issues needed reconciliation, and how to keep our manufacturing operations running at peak performance levels as well. So we've really gone way beyond what our original vision was, to have that instant single source of the truth. We're truly making it work for us. Automated workflows, optimization insights, and now driving new technologies with the drones, the robotics, and the wearables. And I think to conclude my portion of the discussion today, there's one other supply chain element. There's all these supply chain elements that come together as far as building facilities, operating, maintaining facilities, but also to build out that digital ecosystem. Change management is it's a huge issue, and a lot of us have facilities that are significantly built out. They're significantly aged in some areas. So to be able to allow the user to have that experience, to see the value and to see the payback as soon as possible is very critical. To not upset how they're accessing that data. We all have a lot of data. We've been collecting data for years, but to bring that data together in new structures and new formats, that's really what the supply of digital tools and the machinery that powers those engines for us offers. For us, we were able to keep a lot of the user interfaces the same. We created behind-the-scenes interoperability between digital environments. That allowed us to, in a quicker fashion, realize those advantages. And so that's a critical part of this supply chain as well, working with those partners who bring those digital tools, those digital engines to the table that can really help us realize that value by how their systems interface with existing data environments and how they tie between data environments. And I know that Joe McMullen from AVEVA is going to speak in greater detail about that, but that's a very important aspect to realize this value.
Jan, that is just an incredibly humbling story and journey of kind of what Eastman has gone through. I certainly understand from a Chevron perspective, we allow a lot of autonomy within our business units, right, to make their own decisions. And when you're talking about transformation, the centralization, standardization of all these things to really drive scale is absolutely important. And it's no trivial task, kind of what you guys have been through to achieve that. It's a very impressive story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And one just quick anecdote about setting up digital foundations. I know there's an email, I think about 10, 15 years ago within Amazon that talks about this API mandate, where it's like everything has to connect, right? And that's just the bottom line. If you are involved in systems that don't really speak to each other, then you have to kind of make that a reality. And it seems like that whole mandate has worked pretty well for Amazon. And I think a lot of the companies that we are now dealing with, like, that are not technology native, are now retrofitting kind of their organization to make sure that they are foundationally correct from a digital perspective to really drive things at scale. So thank you for sharing that. It was fantastic. I know Joseph has a lot to discuss from AVEVA, trusted partner for so many different companies. And so Joseph, tell us a little bit, about the company, one, and then for those who are not familiar, and two, tell us how you're driving kind of value and transformation efforts for your clients.
Great. Thank you, Don. So I've worked for AVEVA for just shy of 20 years. Actually, next month will be my anniversary of 20 years. So I've worked in many different roles, from tech support to product management to industry marketing and portfolio marketing, all sorts of marketing roles. What I love most about the company that AVEVA has become over the last 2 decades is that they're truly a pioneer. They innovate with the goal to empower industry leaders. And those industry leaders are customers. They optimize their value, efficiency, sustainability are all these keywords that are thrown around now. But I feel like AVEVA really empowers these industry leaders, our customers, to do and achieve so many great things. There have been so many great innovations over the last few years, whether it's AI or AR or all of these new things that we're adding to kind of create an ecosystem of our products. There are so many good things that have come, and there are so many good things that I think are left to come. So as mentioned, I'm in charge of value chain optimization at AVEVA. And when I talk about value chain optimization, we mean the digitalization of the entire value chain. So in this respect, oil and gas value chain. So we believe that the oil and gas value chain consists of three areas: the supply chain, operations, and then optimization. When you can digitalize all three of these areas and then unite them with a common unified data, you will achieve so much. You get to what Jan mentioned, a single source of truth. When you have that and everyone is pulling from that same information, not only are you up to date, but everyone is on the same page. In my opinion, the current oil and gas supply chain is riddled with many different point solutions. I think the last time I counted, there can be up to like 30. And that just overcomplicates everything. It puts up data silos, it limits collaboration, and it's just bad for the bottom line because everyone is concerned about their own KPIs. I've been guilty of it at times too, right? You care about your own KPI that's going to affect your yearly bonus. And you're less worried about the overall company bottom line or company goals in favor of your own, selfish reasons. When I've given this talk or talked about this in the past, I've asked the audience, is your supply chain, is your value chain, your entire value chain, is it made up of different point solutions that are all kind of integrated or manually transferring data back and forth or have some sort of coding, or is it one integrated solution? At least 90% of the time, usually more like 95% of the time, everyone says that it's different point solutions. And those are hard to maintain. And it causes so many value leaks within the entire value chain. But I'm not going to talk about optimization or operations today. I know this is more about supply chain. So I have two case studies that I want to talk about, and I'll talk about a third later. So the first one I want to talk about is BP, and that is they moved their entire supply chain to AVEVA, but when they did that, they moved to the cloud. So that meant cloud for deployment, cloud for access to the data from anywhere in the company, but also cloud from a computational standpoint, and that brought a lot of speed. So their results that they told us that we've been using for a few years, to quote them, is what used to take them 7 hours, they can now do in 3.25 minutes. So they used to run a single planning model, and it used to take them 7 hours, and now it takes them less than 4 minutes. That is a competitive advantage. That cuts their crude processing decision time from 2 days to less than 2 hours. Think about that. In your refinery, how long does it take you to determine which crudes on the open market you want to purchase? And what happens if BP makes that decision faster and purchases those crudes instead? So that is a competitive advantage that BP is getting by unifying their supply chain, putting it in the cloud. They're better managing operational IT costs, and they're making lower risk decisions. So right now I'm working on the next BP case study. It's at the very early stages, but what they're doing is they're taking this cloud-enabled supply chain management, and they're optimizing a network, the network distribution, and that's coming out probably in the next 3 to 4 months. But I'm really excited about this next phase of the BP success story. A second success story is Neste. They increase operational efficiency and achieve quicker decision-making based on real-time unified supply chain data, all because they can access it in the cloud, and all because it's one single source of truth. That means whether you're in one of their 80 refinery sites, in site A or site 80, you are looking at that same information. They optimize their production using digital models, and here's the key with smart analytics. So everyone has data. It's how you manage that data that's important. we have smart analytics that helps you figure out what is the most important data, and are there trends? Are there things that you need to worry about? What do you need to look at? All of that is part of the smart analytics package, and it helps you look at data. They were able to deploy to 80 different sites, and now they can collaborate in real time, share best practices, and streamline decision-making process across the entire enterprise, all because they migrated to the cloud. So in both case studies, they used our software. It was powered by the cloud for deployment and computations and also data access. But the software itself is only part of it. The real story behind this all is how technology empowered our customers. So back when I mentioned how we're pioneering, we're empowering our customers, that's what our software does. It helps you have all the available information in one place. As Jan mentioned, a single source of truth with their Sega system. For all the different models or modules that want to use that data. When you do that, you break down the silos and you improve collaboration. As Jan mentioned, when the pandemic hit, if you were set up so that you could access the data from anywhere, you were ahead of the game. And that's how we've set up everything, is so that you can access all that information remotely. When everyone is on the same page and everyone has the same data, everyone can work together to achieve the company's goals, not just their own KPIs. And think about how valuable that is to have just one team within your company all working towards the same goal. That is cultural transformation empowered by the digitalization of the supply chain. So I have one more case study, and I have just a few more minutes left anyways. I want to talk about this one company that embraced the entire value chain optimization. Their digital transformation spans supply chain, operations, and optimization. And that's the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, or ADNOC. They implemented their Panorama Command Center. So after this session, I suggest you go to YouTube and Google ADNOC Panorama or ADNOC Command Center and watch a couple of the videos. It is amazing. So you walk into their command center, and one wall, it's 150 feet wide, it's 10 feet tall, and it is an LCD screen or LCD screens. And they can measure any point from when they get the oil out of the ground to when they transport it, to when they process it, to when they distribute it for consumption. They have all of that data and all of those KPIs as part of that, and they're tracking that. They're looking for trends. They're watching to make sure that their assets are performing appropriately, and they can see early signs of danger. So what they're telling us is that they're saving $80 million per run using value chain optimization. They're improving their visibility, and they're making faster decisions. They're telling us, and this is their numbers, not ours, over 1 billion, that's billion with a B, in cumulative saving benefits over 3 years. So that is a lot of money, and that's what's going to take you to the next level when you can really harness technology to make yourself better. So regardless of whether you start with just the supply chain operations optimization and a digital transformation, don't just jump at the coolest technology. If I can offer you one piece of advice that you take away from my 10 minutes here, it is to start with a single problem. Figure out how you can make your company better by solving a single problem. Figure out what that ideal state will be, and then find a technology and a technology partner that will help you achieve that ideal state. Don't get overwhelmed by data. Let technology help you analyze it and help you figure out what is the most important. So Jan mentioned wearables and other pieces of technology. Find the right technology for you to solve a single problem. Use the savings and benefits from that solution to fund your next piece of your digital transformation journey. With that, that's my last bit of pontification. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
That was really, really compelling as well. Joseph, thank you for sharing your anecdotes and tidbits. And a couple takeaways I got from that is, non-essential redundant data is going to cost you. So really normalizing kind of your data is really an imperative thing, right? And the second thing that you mentioned, I think that really synced with me was in terms of, I can't think of any time where just-in-time decision-making or real-time decision-making is going to be a bad thing, right? The ability to have that data at your fingertips, assuming it's quality data and assuming that you're getting the right insights from it, is going to provide you sound decision-making for you and your corporation, right? And if you're talking about a transformation perspective, I think, Jan and Joseph, you guys both talked about kind of the foundations. And if you want to talk about, to make it kind of sound cheesy from a football analysis perspective, you can't win without a strong ground game or a strong defense. Like everybody talks about that, right? So really getting, these silos broken down, getting your data standardized, normalized, not having redundant data, and then ability to really drive insights from that data is really what is going to enable you to win. So thank you for sharing those anecdotes. That was really, really fantastic. Thank you so much. Moving on, we'll talk a little bit about, we touched on data, right? And we have Marcos from Braskem, who's a data expert of sorts. So tell us about what's going on with Braskem. Tell us about the company and tell us about your capacity there, Marcos.
Sure. Thanks, Aidan. So Braskem is a global leader on polymer production and biopolymer production and largest petrochemical in Americas. We have over 20 million ton capacity on resins and petrochemical products and commercial footprint worldwide. We sell to every continent, although we have productions in Brazil, Mexico, US, and here in Europe. And our digital journey started not that long ago, was beginning of 2018. When we formed what we call now the Digital Center and appointed a CDO to be the catalyst of that change, right? And that's the area where I'm actually responsible for, as I mentioned, the Digital Factory, responsible for designing, managing, and delivering the digital products, right? And I think the focus that we have there is not only to deliver those products, but also change the way we work in our core business, right? I think Joseph pointed really well on the choices of problems and focus from the teams, and that's very valuable and very important for your digital transformation journey. And we did that by also breaking down our company in different value chains and trying to identify what were the pressing and most important issues that we had in each one of those areas and supply and value chain areas. So to connect a lot with what Joseph said, right? We always had a motto in our digital transformation was saying that do not start with a hammer looking for a nail. In an anecdote to do not just go for a pretty nice technology and then try to find a problem, right? So all our IoT, machine learning, and advanced analytics initiatives that we have at Braskem, they're based on pressing and value pains that is going to actually help the business to have a competitive advantage, right? And this is the very important thing that it let us actually evolve and make sure that we moved into that level of performance, right? And I'll bring one case that exemplifies that really well and also connect to the real-time online data usage on machine learning, right? But I think one topic that is also important when we talk about data and all this journey is that the technology per se is probably the simplest of the problems, right? There is a component, as Jan said, of change management that is really important throughout this journey, right? And at Braskem, I helped also in the beginning to lead the change management perspective of our digital transformation. And that was key for us to actually be able to pave the way for change, right? We're a chemical company, right, in the chemical industry, which is very based in old habits, right, and used to believe that things remain the same. Although we're very supported by data all the time through our automated systems and the way we can collect and use data, right? But we developed a change management model that we call the SPEAR to exactly adapt to the needs that Braskem was facing during the digitalization journey, right? And that was highly focused on the users and the people that were actually going to be acting on those products, either if they are internal employees or if it's our customers, our suppliers, or other stakeholders, but also focusing on what we call the behavior change, right? A lot of the focus on product sometimes is to develop the best product, but we sometimes forget on how the user and the people are going to interact with that. So the behavior drives a lot on the value we're going to be extracting from those products, right? So that's why the component inside my area with design is so important, not only to just identify the right approaches and how to drill down into which technology is better, but towards design thinking, we can better tackle that and help us how to address the change management situation up front when we actually implement this and actually roll out to different areas and different people. The other component that was key in the data process was agile, right? For us, and I cannot reinforce that enough, like agile is not the methodology. For us, it's the mindset of continuous improvement, of testing and learning, and highly interacting with customers and the users to get feedbacks and adapt quick, right? Digitalization is a journey into uncertainty. There is high risk in the products you're going to be developing. So accepting that you cannot plan ahead 5-6 year program and then just go everything by the book, by the schedule. It's very important for you to accept change and adapt to it rather than trying to control it. And that's what agile made us actually good at adapting in those things and being able to evolve. And also, as Joseph said, right, prioritizing, right? We're not doing 100 initiatives at the same time to try to make Braskem more digital from night to day, right? We're focusing, prioritizing the right problems that we think the technology is ready and mature enough for us to then advance and finally figure out what is the best option for us to move forward. So we have a range of products that we develop right inside my team. I have also a development team that's taking care of the architecture, the database, also does the full stack development, but also a data science team that is responsible for those models, right? And we developed demand forecasting models already, where I can tell you the challenge we faced was definitely on the data internally. When you talk about master data, how does that connect with your models? How do you do good clusterization and classification of customers and demands? How do you identify data that you actually don't have when you're talking about outside and external variables? So this is actually very important for you to tackle, right? We're doing a lot of efforts on what we call the smart factory, right, with predictive maintenance, which is a case we started right in the beginning and has been successful, and we're already rolling out to different sites in Brazil as well. But also enhancing, as Jan said, about the wearables, right? The use of wearables to increase safety and reduce risk of our operations and our employees, right? So we're using what we call connected workforce, using FRID in badges to allow us to have faster response on getting operators or employees out of a danger area as fast as possible, make sure that anybody is not anymore in a danger area. And even for now, it's possible to do contact warnings if somebody gets too close from each other on the COVID scenario. This is also an enabler for us to be able to control that, which was actually not what it was designed to, but it helped us during this time of pandemia. But I think the case that it shows more that connection of how data and data science can actually touch a very important pain of the business that connects to our industry and specifically to chemical production and process is related to quality control, right? Every company tries to enhances their process to avoid losses regarding to quality, but we know in a continuous process that it's hard. You have transitions between products, and all this is a very manual process of taking samples, taking this to the lab, doing lab analysis. This costs money, takes time. So to get a really competitive advantage in there, we saw that not only the off-spec that was produced within the campaigns and during campaigns as well, but all this time and all this process was very valuable for us if we could actually tackle this differently. And since we have not only years and years of data, but the knowledge on the process that we could actually work on a machine learning model that would use real-time data of process conditions on temperature, on the reactor, pressure, flow, amount of hydrocarbons you're putting inside the process, and use that real-time data with a time series model to predict what is going to be that quality variable in the end. And that showed as a very valuable approach, as we were able to reduce over 20% of our off-spec during transition due to time reduction on those transitions, and plus reduce the variability within the batches in more than 60%. And that is just one success case of others that we had, but as I mentioned before, we did not try to roll out hundreds of cases, right? We now probably have 10 products that are very robust and actually industrialized, not on MVP phases anymore, but they were always the focus of our team to develop, because they were the high valuable ones that already were able to enable around 80 to 100 million on recurring yearly basis of value to the business, right? And of course, we have a longer portfolio that reached out to 1 billion. But as I mentioned, right, is the difficulty of knowing which ones will fail, and they will. That is important for you to actually give time to focus on those that will definitely address the pain points you have, right? And going back to that point, right, which is very important, the only time we actually broke our model and tried to go for technology prior to the problem, it came to bite us back. And the experience we had with blockchain, to just name one, was a time that we tried to push a technology that was not mature enough. And we saw that it definitely does not justify trying to get a technology. It doesn't matter as how nice it is, how cool it sounds, it doesn't bring the value because your pressing points is not there. So I think Joseph touched the hammer, the nail in the head there. I think take a look into those things. Don't underestimate the change management perspective of this. As I said, in this case that we talked about quality, predictive quality, we did a strong effort to not only train and prepare the operators for this new reality. If they didn't change their behavior of asking for lab samples and taking the decisions based on what the new data shows them, there would be no value. And at the same time, of course, we had a reduction on demands for lab testing. So those lab specialists needed to be put in a relocation program or upskilling program. And now some of them are actually involved into data science and being upskilled to be able to not only maintain the models, but also be able to retrain or to adjust it for new grades and new products. So think about the components that are beyond technology, because most of the time the technical part is the easy one. You have to always be careful of what is around and the surroundings and culture of the company that will enable you to move forward.
Marcos, that was incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, a couple takeaways from my perspective is, one, you're staying really customer and delivery focused and not letting technology be the driver. That seems to be kind of like the foundation of what you want to achieve. It kind of reminds me of there's a very famous Steve Jobs clip where he's at it's a company town hall or whatnot, and somebody gets up from the company and talks to him about, like, why are you using technology X when technology Y is proven to be so much better, and can you explain your line of thinking? And he really just shuts it down by saying, look, I'm working backwards. I'm working from kind of what I want to achieve from a delivery perspective, from an end user or customer perspective, and the technology is secondary to that. So that's really, really important in terms of driving value. And the other thing that you really added, which I really like too, is you talked about agile and how important it is in terms of innovation and dealing with unknown. And there's a quote. It's like I never fail. I either succeed or I learn. Right. So it's like when you start changing your mindset from a corporate perspective, I think that's from corporations that are not digitally native. I think that's certainly been a transition for a lot of us in terms of like making sure that if you want to try new things, we try it, and if it doesn't work, we pivot rapidly as opposed to continuing down this rabbit hole that may not yield any transformative results, right? So thank you for sharing those anecdotes. That was really, really very interesting, impressive work that's happening at Braskem, and congrats to you and your team.
Thank you. If I can add one more thing just before you move on to
Sure.
Adrian, sorry. Just because you touched on that point of agile, right? I think I have probably a sentence that came from L'Oreal on their process of transformation that I think reflects really well that and says, failing and learning is the new perfection, right? Which means that actually trying and experimenting, it's the new perfection. Trying to just go for always getting it right is never going to work anymore, right? And I think this is really gets a good message for people out there, right? So I don't take the credits. It was from L'Oreal, but I think it explains really well.
That's really important. Yeah, I think that's a key thing in terms of, the cultural aspect of what's happening within digital transformation is very important too. That has to align with what you're doing from a technology perspective as well. So thanks for sharing. All right, Adrian, certainly last but not least, tell us about what's happening at Honeywell and within your role and how you're driving value. Certainly, I think safety seems to be a key feature for some of your priorities. Certainly, we're very all interested in safety, as a lot of our industries are involving hazardous operations, and making sure our workforce goes home is critically important. So love to hear what's happening there at Honeywell.
Thanks, Adrian, and it was great to hear from Jan, Joseph, and Marcus there. And I'm going to touch on some of the things that they said when I go through telling you what we're doing in Honeywell Process Solutions. But a little bit about the company first. So Honeywell Process Solutions are part of our Performance Materials and Technologies business. We're helping industrial customers around the world to operate safe, reliable, efficient, sustainable, and more profitable facilities. We have a range of leading technologies from the plant floor to the boardroom, as well as a comprehensive life cycle services offering. So we're ensuring the future of productive and stable operations. It was really interesting to hear Jan at the start of the session talking about how Eastman are leveraging digitalization, using it to provide operational efficiencies, but more importantly, over the last 12 months, how they've been able to operate with a skeleton crew, because that's a really huge challenge that we're seeing across industry right now. So at Honeywell, we've totally embraced digital transformation. For safety, well, my responsibilities in the safety space. So for safety and workforce management, we're building on a strong foundation and a broad portfolio in that space where we're addressing personnel, process, plant, and asset safety. And all of those are interrelated at some point with environmental health and safety. So whether your supply chain, upstream, downstream, it's safety is across the board, as is environmental health and safety. And so we're looking to create a holistic enterprise and plant-wide safety solution. And we're actively working on our vision of improved safety through data analytics. And that will make a more productive, more prescriptive, and more predictive approach to safety, which in turn will reduce the likelihood of safety incidents being repeated. Over the last 12 months, all industries have faced challenges of operating with a reduced on-site workforce. Jan just mentioned that, and everybody is in the same situation. We've seen companies that are seeing a loss of revenue as they've had to shut down either part of the operation or release employees to go home and isolate either part shift or sometimes whole shifts. And history shows us when we're working in those environments and those uncertain times that it becomes near impossible to fully address maintenance activities. We see safety shutdown systems being placed into bypass for longer periods. And the high-risk activities that are involved in shutting down and restarting units over and over again, we're always going to see the likelihood of increased safety incidents. So, in those cases, there just simply aren't enough eyes on the operation. So this is where digitalization really comes into its own. And, you know, it's really important to alleviate some of the burden around safe operations and the subsequent reporting of safety incidents and environmental concerns. Honeywell, we're supporting solutions that are digitalization, everything from entry management process. That aligns with competency management, where we're using technologies that augmented reality and virtual reality technology. So we're training operators and field workers in the classroom visually as if they're on plant, nice and safe, and gives them familiarity so they've learned the layout and what they're going to do on a particular job function, job task before they even leave the building. This then flows into workforce management, compliance management. Marcos talked about real-time location and being able to provide that contact tracing. And that enables now in the current environment that, you know, we only need to identify the individuals that are at risk, and we can send those home to isolate instead of the whole shift. Now we keep operations running, and we're reducing the impact of shutting down a unit and restarting a unit. So the ability to optimize that reduced workforce during their working day is now critical to safe operations. It's likely that the older workforce have had to isolate. Here in the UK, all us old guys had to stay at home, right? And that's no different anywhere around the world. So now we've got potentially younger, more inexperienced workers in the field. So we've identified that, and using remote solutions like our worker assist or expert on call, we can provide remote guidance to the field worker in real time, where we have voice and visual communications with an experienced worker either in the control room or isolating at home, and maybe isolating at home in a different country altogether. And they're able to see the real-time view of the task, able to communicate with that less experienced operator while he's on tools in the field. And that's putting now an experienced head on young shoulders. Love that one. Now, industry are telling us they want to automate the identification of not all major incidents, but also the small incidents, because lots of small incidents eventually add up. And they want to make that data available and visible to enable future learning. And a significant amount of the environmental health and safety data that is being entered today is performed manually. And it's performed manually at the end of the shift. So we're seeing an inaccuracy around that data, an incompleteness around that data, because a safety incident that might have happened in the first hour of shift, when you've just completed your 12th hour and you want to get home to get something to eat and see the family, albeit you're getting home safely, you're less likely to put detailed information into the environmental health and safety system. So automating that process during the working day now gives a clarity of information that then enables future learning, and also then moves into automated work streams around if it's a personal gas alarm, maybe a gas release and an environmental work stream, or an industrial hygiene work stream, because now I've been exposed to a particular gas. So being able to do that automatically during the working day is a significant advantage. And to do that, data integration is key. We heard Joseph talk about the challenges of working with point solutions, and that is always a challenge. So having the ability to analyze data from integrated solutions, integrated whether they be safety, process-related systems, edge devices like connected wearables or sensors, controllers, being able to see that is going to allow, and analyze that is going to allow a predictive and prescriptive maintenance program. More importantly, it'll help us reduce the likelihood of the same event happening a second time. And that's really key. You know, if we can learn from every single event and reduce the possibility of that happening a second time, that's invaluable for business. And we are making and helping our workers get home safe at the end of the shift. Now, to get these benefits more quickly, it's really important then to think about what the system's addressing, and are they addressing a particular need. To repeat Marcus's message, don't just go with a nice technology. Think about, what does that technology integrate with that I have now that makes you more efficient? Is it scalable? As my operation expands, is it going to expand with me? Am I able to move it from the plant to the enterprise wide? Is that solution going to give me that same benefit across all of the plants in my enterprise? More importantly, is there a development roadmap? Will that development roadmap protect my investment now and meet my future needs, or exceed my future needs? And that is the message I would like to leave you. Point solutions do a job. Integrating the point solutions with what you have and that holistic view of safety, that degree of digitalization is how you improve safety and efficiency across all of your operations. So, Adrian, thank you very much. I'd like to hand it back to you to sum up.
Adrian, thank you for your comments. A couple things really, resonated with me. One was, when you're talking about operational tolerances that are slightly beyond or slightly off, their cumulative kind of sum can create a major problem. And I think that's a really important insight when you're starting to talk about, just things that are slightly off, but when you add it all up, it becomes beyond normal limits, and that can really create some major problems. Question for you, in terms of the age of COVID, and you're talking about potentially wearables or tracking people and whatnot. I know there's been a reluctance in the past for actually tying individual specificity IDs to workforce. Are you seeing a change potentially in terms of that mindset changing to really be able to track people and individually tie them, as opposed to being a more anonymous, resource?
I think depending where you are globally, the mindset changes. I think it's important that you have to have a solution that is able to anonymize the data. And by anonymizing the data, then you're looking at only using what you need to use for a particular moment in time. And whether that is evacuating workers from a hazardous area, whether that is finding that you can get 10% better efficiency by moving a tool crib from where it is now 100 meters into a different part of the unit, and having less time and more time on tools as a result. All of that adds up to efficiency. So the benefit of safety, but also of operational efficiencies as well. And the mindset around real-time location is certainly changing. If, like I mentioned earlier, if we're talking about sending a whole shift home and shutting down a unit, the production loss is incredible. So contact tracing, I want to know if I've been in contact with somebody with COVID. And it goes beyond COVID. This isn't going to be the last pandemic we see. Even if we look at flu, who talks about flu anymore? But when we look at flu, that can go through a whole shift just the same, and you have the same result. So, having those efficiencies, having that digitalization, being able to expand it from what it's achieving now to address the COVID needs into better workforce management, better efficiencies on the plant, better safety, and better emergency response, the benefits far outweigh the cost.
No question. Thank you for that insight. That's really very, very interesting, because that's certainly a challenge from the past. But I think, as you mentioned, COVID is certainly a bit of a game changer in how it can impact the organizational ability to operate is very real. So I think everything is potentially back on the table in terms of taking a look at what makes the most sense for the individual as well as the enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up our conversation. I want to thank each and every one of you. It was really very, very insightful. Really enjoyed it. I think if there's any questions, we can certainly entertain those at this time, if there are any. Okay. Go ahead. Let's see here. So I think we're set for our topic and our conversation.